everybody, this is Al Nash from the Unapologetic Women Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Women podcast, the show for women who choose to live their legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you're curious about, visit unapologetic-women.com. Today, we're talking about the changing phases of success with our seasons of life with Kelly Wittman. Kelly is the owner of Witt & Company, a brand strategy and design studio that specializes in rebranding. Prior to the unplanned start of her business in 2017, she spent 6 years in marketing, event management, and fundraising, specifically in the non-profit and startup space. Now, she happily wears the title Unemployable and is on a mission to help people-first businesses create strategic and intentional brands that support them in doing more good work. Thanks for joining us. This conversation is delicious in its variety and curiosity. This is my amazing friend, Kelly Wittman. Where do we start? I feel like now normally start with what does it mean for you to be an unapologetic woman? Let's start there. Why the hell not? Like, why change the recipe, right?
It's not broken. Don't fix it. I have been sitting with this question in preparation in my typical type A fashion of getting prepared of like, how would I answer this? So I've been thinking a lot about it on my walks. And what sits with me or resonates with me today, so that's where we're operating from, is to be unapologetic means being able to make decisions and take action with confidence and without question, because you're rooted, because you're grounded, because you're self-aware enough to know that it's your next right step in the current season of life that you are experiencing.
So many things I want to pull apart there, just because I recorded Lia's podcast yesterday. And she's going in the week before you, and really interesting. So she's type A personality normally as well, getting over it. And the first thing she goes like, oh my God, I haven't prepared for the call. And I'm like, awesome. So how refreshing then to have the next week type A coming up and go, I have been preparing for the call and really been thinking about this. And it's evident in your answer, right? Because you've like really thought about this and given us such a cohesive answer. I love this shit. And then I'm kind of wondering, like, are we losing spontaneity through all the preparation? And I'm not making it wrong. I'm just making an observation in terms of, are we over preparing? Like, are we so conditioned at this stage that, especially as successful women, we have to be so prepared for everything that we're getting caught up in the mindset world and not the heart set world? Does that make sense?
It does. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What came up for me right away was there are certain things that I know I can prepare for, so I'd like to do that. But there's also certain aspects of my life where I revel in embracing the spontaneity. Like if I'm going to go travel, I love just going and not planning. That's one of the areas of my life where I don't plan, and I absolutely love it. I just love going to a destination and saying, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. I don't want to plan. I just want to go and see what happens and embrace the unknown in that area. But then, there's certain other aspects like this, getting ready for an important conversation, because I respect you and I respect your time and I respect you having me on this show. I want to be prepared and I want to think about it, because I've heard other episodes, and what comes up for me when I listen to podcasts where the host answers or asks the same question, I always like to reflect on how I would answer it anyways. So it's just kind of my natural tendency. But I think in tandem it was, I wanted to just show up well for you and for your community and your audience, because you so graciously asked me to come on and have this conversation.
show up any other way than fantastical. I mean, seriously, Kelly, you are such a badass, amazing, deeply loved woman in my life. Like, you could literally show up in your underwear with curlers in your hair and, you know, a baby on the hip, and I would be like freaking blown away by you. And I think that that is really what's coming up a lot for me, and this has got to do with where I'm at in my life, right? So I'm in that
Mhm.
period of, I am very much moving out of the masculine modality of planning and structure and goals and coaching, and into the feminine
Mhm.
structure of intuition, spontaneity, being enough in every moment.
Yeah.
Nothing needed, no preparation needed, no, don't need to think about how I'm showing up. I'm just showing up however I am right now, and I know that that's enough and it's good enough.
Yes.
Um,
You've
and
been a fun to watch in that journey, just even in the, I don't even know, year now that I've known you, to see that journey. And it's been a very much an inspiration as well for me because of like where I am in my, season of life, and what I'm going through. And my natural tendency is, that masculine of let's plan, let's set the KPIs, let's set the metrics, meet the goals, have hard boundaries, and not as much of that flow. And I think that's why you and I have such a great relationship, because we balance each other out. And I really just enjoy learning from you and seeing you through this evolution of let's embrace more of the feminine and fuck it, let's just do whatever feels good. And it's been really fun.
it's been really fun for me to go through this, by the way, and to be around women who are still very much in the masculine. And again, for everybody, I'm not making it wrong. Like, wherever you're at is perfect, right?
Mhm.
And I do believe that we all have to go through the overtly masculine way of living at this time, because that's how we are creating a new way, a new evolution of how do we invite the feminine back in? Because society does this beautiful pendulum swing through the ages. I think we just miss the pendulum swing because we're so focused on what's happening now. Um,
Right.
and so I love the fact that we are busy swinging again. And this, it's just juicy for me to observe and to pull apart and to kind of have compassion for where I'm at and for where everybody else is, and kind of going, hmm, and what else do we get to do? Like, how else do we get to start bringing this more into business specifically, which is extraordinarily masculine focus. Everything, the way that business is
Mhm.
being done at the moment, is masculine. And even though, as high achieving women, who for the most part we have a strong masculine energy, all high achieving women do, we very much get shit done, set the goals, smash them, go bigger, you're very organized. I was so routine, anal retentive, it wasn't even funny. So it's really amazing to now not being in a position where I can have a routine, because with my relationship, I'm living between two houses for the most part. Um, and it's amazing to kind of go, and more women are getting to that stage of, oh, this is just not it for me. Like, I'm
Mhm.
tired of working for my business. I want my business to work for me, with
Yeah.
my phase in life, with my emotions, with my desires, with my hormones, with my relationships, with all of these things. Like, more and more high achieving women are going, and how do we start changing business so we don't fit into business, but business fits into us? That
Mhm.
brings me to, then who are we as a woman, that business starts responding to us instead of us responding to business.
Yes. It's such a it's an important conversation. And I think especially in this season of life with one young child and another one on the way, of being very diligent and aware of who I am learning from and surrounding myself with, because of exactly what you're saying. I think when I first started in business, I was learning from a lot of we'll just say men and women, but with, I know you and I have talked about this, kind of those bro marketing tendencies, and you have to be everywhere and be all the things. And especially learning from people who didn't have children, or they didn't acknowledge the support of their spouse, predominantly men who didn't acknowledge the support of their spouse, and how much that plays into their success. It was more so that story of, I, got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, worked until 11 o'clock at night, and you have to work your ass off. You have to work super hard and do all the things. And that's how you're going to be successful. And that's what I was chasing, and spent the first 2 years of my business chasing that idealized metric and version of success. And I think that's where a lot of those masculine tendencies, especially today, 4 years later, of where I'm at. And it's so fun to have exactly what you're sharing, to enter into the conversation and to surround myself with more people and learn from more people who are saying, no, no, no. Like, what happens when you are a woman and you also have these other responsibilities outside of your business? What does it look like to then reach your version of success? Not quote unquote overnight. You can't work 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. because you have humans that also need your support, and you have other things in your life that you want to enjoy. And it's not just about the business. And it's been a really fun journey, especially over the last 2 years since having my daughter, of what does that look like? What really is that version of success? And the other piece that I don't know if you found this for yourself, that I have been a lot more mindful of, is just really questioning when I see something online and it's very vanity focused metric. It's okay, but what's the other side of this story? And not taking everything for face value, which has been really supportive and helpful, especially in this next season of life that I am in with children and business and growth and new vision and all of the fun things that come with, building a business.
So interesting, because I was thinking about that just this morning. Well, kind of like that, because yesterday we were having a conversation in the friend work soiree about AI, and I, being me, was playing devil's advocate again and kind of going, okay, so this is all fabulous for this, and what about this, right? So yes, AI is great and it's making life easier for people, and playing devil's advocate, it's making people stupider because they're not working their thinking muscle as hard. People are becoming less creative because they're not having to work their creativity muscle so hard, because AI is doing all of that work for them.
Sure.
My thing is, the people who are developing AI are becoming smarter and more creative, and making the rest of the people stupider and less creative. And so there's a greater and greater division that's happening in society on all levels. And I look at everything like that, like everything that's get created. I'm the person who always goes, that's fabulous for these reasons, and there's something else for these reasons. And I almost feel like people are scared to do that. People are scared at looking what's being shown to them, and then unemotionally and unattached go, for everything that is created, for everything that I see, there is a desire part that is coming from that. Yay, this is amazing. Now I have this in my life. But there's also a contrast that's being created at the same time, because that's how evolution works, right? Evolution works from, there's always a desire and a contrast. The contrast creates a new desire, which we then manifest something from, which creates a fulfillment of a desire and a new contrast. Like, I feel like people are missing out on that piece. And so they are not allowing themselves to have that critical thinking of going, awesome, so this is what I'm being shown, all the bells and whistles and the roses and everything that's so fabulous, but what is the contrast that's being created? And a huge part of that is in the masculine modality. We're all being told by these really successful men and women, we have to work so hard. We have to get up at a certain time. We have to work until a certain time. We can't have entertainment in our lives. We have to work, work, work. If we want to be successful, this is what it takes. And it works for them, for their defined success. But more and more women especially are going, not willing to pay that price anymore, because if I have to suffer for success, that is not success for me.
Mm-hmm.
And how brilliant a time for women to start doing that and going, actually, I don't want that. That's your success, but I'm not willing to self-sacrifice. I'm at that stage, everything has to enhance me. I'm on a self-enhancement journey. My routines, what time I get up has to enhance me. What I eat has to enhance me. How I work out has to enhance me. How I think has to enhance me. How I work has to enhance me. My business has to enhance me. And enhancement is enhancement of my joy frequency, which is who I really am. So any sacrifice of my joy, even if it's short term, all these people go, you have to sacrifice the short term for the long term. No. Why do I have to sacrifice short term joy for long term success?
I would love to hear your thoughts on where, sitting with this space of getting uncomfortable and how you view that in terms of how much joy that brings to your life, right? I think about it, as an example of stepping into, maybe I can think of my own personal experience the last few months. The vision that I've had for my business and my life has expanded exponentially, has grown, and it's been very uncomfortable. I've had some decisions that have been uncomfortable in terms of like team and next right steps for me that I know are uncomfortable in the short term, to use what you had just said, but are supporting really that the vision and the version of success that I really want to work towards. And I would just I'm very curious to hear your thoughts when you think about, I don't want to do anything that doesn't enhance or bring the joy. From your perspective, how does getting uncomfortable work into that, or making maybe challenging decisions, or I'll just leave it there. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
So my opinion on that is, at this time, I don't do the whole we have to live out of our comfort zones. But it's a slower process, right? So for me, if you take the time to first calibrate to the desire, which takes time, in other words, you're already the person who's living out the desire, whatever decision you're making right now does not feel uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness comes from we are taking the action before we have calibrated. Because we think that by taking the action, we will become the person, instead of allowing ourselves to first become the person and then take the action. It is a rushed modality, which is masculine again. It is that whole part of we have to do something that makes us scared. We have to be uncomfortable to grow. All of that requires us to be on a lower frequency and force ourselves into a higher frequency. Well, that's what people think we are doing. We're forcing ourselves. And yes, we can get results and we can get to the outcomes and we do grow. But it's why so many people don't want to grow, because all they hear all the time is, I have to be afraid and I have to be uncomfortable. And it's not fun. It's not fun. And it comes from that idea of it's wrong where I'm at. I have to get there faster. If it's right where I'm at, and I know I'll get there when I'm going to get there, and I get to be ready to get there, then whatever action I'm taking right now, I calibrate first and then take the comfortable action.
I appreciate that perspective shift. I think for me, there are certain times when I appreciate and enjoy the challenge, but then that is part of the joy, right? So what I'm hearing from you is that's when you're already calibrated and you have the joy in the challenge, versus when you're making a decision or doing something more so from that place of, I feel like I need to, or I feel like I quote unquote should, and doing the shoulding, and then making the decision. And that's where you get the discomfort, which sounds, from what you're saying, that's not needed. That's just an expectation that we have because of society and where we're living in this current day and age.
Which is all rushed, which is like,
Right.
fake it till you make it. Instead of mature, calibrate, and then when I'm ready, when it feels 100%. I was doing yoga the other day, and I don't know which philosophy it is, but it says you only take action when you can take action with all of you, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The rest of the time, you do not take action, you just live. So you are more in life than in action. And this has made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
so much less action, right? Because by the time you take the action, you're 100% ready to fully take the action, calling upon all of you, your higher self, spiritual forces, whatever you believe in, and complete mental readiness, complete emotional readiness, complete physical readiness. And you bring all of that into one action instead of having to fight yourself to take the action and thereby actually depleting the energy that you are infusing into the action, and which is why people have to take so much action.
And it makes total sense from that, perspective, in the sense of where you're at in your season of life, for you, and sitting with and bringing in this joy, and how vastly different it is from what is taught, I guess, or shared, which is maybe mainstream, for lack of a better term. But I appreciate, as always, I appreciate the perspective shift in any conversation that I have with you, but especially this, because as I reflect back and think about even the last quarter, which has been very challenging. It's coming from this place of I'm not there yet, and feeling the rush, which again, I have not looming, but I have a deadline of a birth. So it does feel rushed on some aspect, but I love sitting in this idea of what does it look like to know that, yes, you have maybe a hard deadline that you have to abide by, but also how can you bring in the joy and bring in that full body confidence before making a decision, making sure that it's aligned so that it doesn't feel challenging. It has the joy of being challenging rather than the uncomfortableness of being challenging.
Yeah, and I want to challenge the word that you use, deadline, because of the energy in the word. It feels tough for me. Like when I hear you have a deadline, it feels like, oh my God, I have to meet the deadline. Shit. Right? What if it's a flow line? Like, what is it if it's literally you just flowing into the next state of being?
Yeah. I mean, language is so important. I think that's always something that I take away from our conversations of what are you saying to yourself? What are you speaking out loud? What's the internal and the external of how you're communicating both with others and with yourself? And yeah, I appreciate you challenging the language, because it does matter. And it is important. And for me, as going back to what I had already shared in the very beginning, as the type A, I live and breathe by my deadlines. I love them. I love the boundaries and the structures, but they can also feel a little overwhelming when, in certain seasons, and when you have things go there, when there's a lot, when you're just in a very full life, which is where I'm at right now. So I appreciate the perspective or the
we'll
shift
put
in
that
language.
in the next dictionary. We'll put Flowline in the next dictionary.
I love it.
And I think it's really important for us as women to start thinking about this. Why do we need the addiction of deadlines? Why do we need the addiction of pressure and challenge, which we are conditioned to have? I have been very observant of the language that's being used in the personal development industry, in the online world as well. it's very addictive focused, right? It's very pressure cooker focused, and a lot of shaming in it as well. I'm sad to say there's a lot of shame language that's being used in the industry, which I'm not in favor of. I think that it's time for us to stop shaming people and cut them some slack and actually say, you know what, we're doing a bloody brilliant job. All of us are. We're all co-creating something so spectacular during this time. And we get to stop telling people how they have to live and allow people to flow live again. Allow people to kind of go, well, what if there isn't a deadline? What if I don't have to force my personal development? What if I'm always growing, regardless of whether I'm doing it consciously or not? What if I can't not grow? Like, what if life is happening perfectly for me? And I'm always ready for whatever action I take next. I'm always ready for whatever gift is bestowed upon me next. How would that actually allow humanity to just go, ah, okay, let's flow, baby. Like, let's flow. Let's play and flow. And yes, we can have flow lines because we are welcoming Peanut into the world in a couple of months. Actually, by the time that this is going live, Peanut might already be with us, which I'm so excited about, right? And it will flow. Like, it will flow. You get ready to be ready for Peanuts. And the business gets to be ready for Peanuts. And your team gets to be ready for Peanuts. Because we're literally welcoming a new soul into this realm. As a woman, as a mother, is there any greater precious gift? And you get to allow yourself the permission that everything, including your business, is in service to you as a mother and to Peanuts and her sister. And so it flows, baby. Like, it's got your back. It gets to flow for you. You don't have to do jack shit. You get to allow the business to flow to get ready to support you and your beautiful daughters.
And one of the words that was coming up of the intention, right? Of being intentional about making those decisions, of how the perspective that you're going to take when you have things that you want to accomplish or do, or how you want to live. I think the other, piece that comes up for me as you were talking about, why do we have to, what came up with like the striving to reach the deadline. And the other part is if it's serving, going back to, does it serve you? Does it support you? And what does that look like then to bring in the joy? And versus having the deadline or that structure because you feel like you have to, or is it supporting a certain aspect of your life and serving you and bringing the joy and bringing the positivity into where you're at and the season that you're in?
Absolutely. Yeah. And isn't that just beautiful to kind of go, yeah, and what is it for me? And that's one of the things that I really invite women to do, is to start trusting the me voice. So I can look at what everybody else is doing and I can listen to what everybody else is doing and then step away from it and being really honest and go, okay, and what about for me?
Right. Which is a challenging question to ask if you're not used to asking it. I think as business owners, I went into my business and I still hold this philosophy. It's something that's important to me, of serving others, but also then having this realization that I'm not able to do my job well. I can't serve others well if I'm not serving me first. And that's can be a challenging place, especially in our society today, to ask and say, the flight mask, example that I feel like always you have to put your mask on first before you can help other people. That's very much overused. But this idea that it can be self-serving and you can also use that and still give to other people. You can be self-serving, ask what can be done for you and how can you serve yourself, and then so that you can also help and support other people. I was listening to a podcast episode this morning about women in the workplace and burnout, and they were saying the guest shared a statistic. It was something like 50% of women executives have more work at home when they get to that level, compared to 13% of men when they get to the executive level, also then have to care for their home. And I think about just this idea of we're constantly giving. The higher that we want to achieve, we're constantly giving more to other people. So I love that you bring up this point of let's self-serve and ask, how is it serving us and what is it doing for us, so that we can then support other people, because there are a lot of expectations on us, especially as women, especially in the business space and growing our businesses.
Yeah. I mean, I even want to challenge the word serve at this stage of the fight, because for me, at the end of the day, and even the mask, you know, metaphor of you have to put on your own mask first. I'm like, oh my God, can we stop being in survival, people?
Right.
How about we say, eat your chocolate ice cream first, and then once
There
you
you
can,
go.
you can share it with other people if you want to. And if you don't want to screw them, then you can eat the whole tub as well. They can go get their own chocolate ice cream.
That's the new one. I think we need to start circulating and making mainstream.
Let's do that. Let's eat your
Perfect.
own chocolate ice cream first. And if you don't want to share, you don't have to. They can go make their own chocolate ice cream. It's okay, ladies. We can be selfish, right? And it's crazy for me that we are putting so much pressure on ourselves, especially as women, to constantly think we have to serve other people, right? What if we didn't have to serve our customers? What if we were just co-creating a beautiful life experience with our customers? Now, if we are going to co-create a beautiful life experience with our clients and customers, that means that we live from a space of creativity. When is a woman, or when is the creative forces at its highest? When we're in joy, when we feel great emotionally, when we feel great physically, when we are relaxed, when we are open, when we are present, when we are looking at things that inspire us. So we are in a really high vibrational state of being when we are our most potently creative, right? Think about making a baby. When do you make a baby? When you're having an orgasm, baby, if you're lucky. I mean, if your man's doing it right, you should be having an orgasm. It's supposed to be pleasure in the creative moments. Now, if you are serving, that is a giving energy. It's not a co-creating energy. When we are co-creating, there's a playfulness in it, and it's a partnership with our clients and our customers. Both have to come to the table to create the most amazing outcome, experience, product, whatever it is. But isn't it more fun to be co-creating than to serve? Just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think my initial thought is, why can't we have both? Why can't we serve and co-create? I think about, I don't have as maybe negative or visceral of a reaction to that word serve. I really enjoy it. It resonates with me. I guess maybe not enjoy, it resonates with me when I think about serving and supporting our clients. But the other word that always comes up for us when I think about my work with clients is the collaborations. So the co-creating. I think there's a beauty that happens when you can serve and support, co-create, collaborate together. And that's when to exactly your point, that's when you get the best work. Because yes, you're supporting them in their journey, and I genuinely find joy in that, but it goes both ways. They, I think, support us in the sense of bringing their thoughts and their ideas and what they want to create and the good that they want to put into the world. So yes, it's a collaborative effort, but I think we're serving each other, which then maybe is going back to what you were saying of that's the co-creation. Maybe just the different vernacular for explaining it.
Maybe we need to just add the little co in front of everything. We co-serve and co-support because they do.
There you go.
Because as you are serving them, they are serving you in your business. As you are supporting them, they are supporting you in your business. So maybe it's time for us to start just adding the little co in front of it. We co-serve, co-support, and co-create.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point, that's when both parties can find that joy and come to a relationship with joy, that's when you get the great results. And not just, the tangible of what we normally think, but just the genuine relationship and the great result in terms of having a connection with the other person and feeling comfortable with them and able to have great conversation. And maybe it is a specific deliverable if you're working on a client, but I think it also goes to relationships, romantic and platonic relationships that you have, when you can both come to the table and want to support and serve each other from that genuine place of joy, because it does bring you joy. Think about whenever you and I get together and have a coffee chat, I always come to it knowing, like, how can I support you? And that genuinely makes me happy. And I know you feel the same, which is why it's such a joyful relationship that we have in a friendship, because we absolutely, authentically, genuinely want to support each other. So I love the idea of adding in the co. I think that just needs to be the new standard.
Yeah, because I was just writing it down. Conversation, collaboration, connection, all start with CO. How cool is that?
That is, it's ironic, but not. I'm sure that's very much intended or intentional.
Let's create the co-culture.
Yes.
We'll create the co-culture. I think I like that.
I do too. New business. There we go.
So you're 7 months pregnant with baby number 2.
I am.
You already have one new in the house who has started school this year, creche this year, right? Daycare.
Daycare. Yep. She'll be 2. She's 2. I guess at basically the time of this recording. Yes, she's 2. I have a 2-year-old, and then a new one on the way in a couple months.
And a beautiful husband.
Yes.
Who brings you joy and gray hairs, like all husbands do.
Equally to both, yes.
Equally to both. And then you have the business. And I know that you make it look so graceful, always, because you are grace. And you also keep it real. What are some of the greatest challenges that you are feeling at this time of everything that's going on?
First, thank you for those very kind words. I think the greatest challenge is that I don't feel like I have been, I feel the exact opposite of what you just so lovingly and kindly explained. Right now, my biggest challenge is sitting with this vision of what I know and believe in my heart of what I want my business to do, while also trying to prepare my family and myself, my body, to give birth to another human being and bring a new family member into our family, which comes with just added unknowns. How is our daughter going to do with a new person who will be taking attention away from her? How is that going to affect and change the dynamic that I have with my husband? How is it going to change the relationship that I have with my daughter? So those unknowns. And I think the last piece of that is the challenges that come with growing a team. You and I have had, you've been very great support in that area of just figuring out and learning a lot about my leadership and who I want to be as a leader and how to hold space for the vision that I have for the company. Realize that I think to what we were sharing before, that it's not here, and I'm okay with, I love where we're at, but I'm also really excited about where we're going, and holding those two ideas in tandem, there's tension there, while navigating the leadership and having the leadership journey, which, you know, navigating people and the different dynamics that you have on your team, and just doing, yeah, I mean, that's that's my challenge right now.
Grateful that this is gonna sound bizarre. I'm so grateful that I was not as involved in personal development when I was pregnant. Because honestly, Kelly, way back then, I just you just fucking lived through it, right? It wasn't done as intentionally as your generation is doing it, because quite frankly, there wasn't this focus on intentionality and personal growth and all of that. We just kind of like fumbled our way through pregnancy and life and doing everything, and it was just it was crazy chaos, but the crazy chaos was the norm. And I almost feel like, with compassion to the younger women, it's as though the crazy chaos is not okay for you guys anymore, and that there's an expectation that you should be doing it better than what we did it, and have your
Oh,
shit
yes.
together.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think I'm very thankful that I'm, again, using this word, but I have intentionally not, I intentionally do not go on social media for personal. I think if I was, I would have a lot more of those thoughts. It's one of the reasons why I quit Instagram for my business, well, almost 3.5 years ago, because I wanted to protect my mental health. I know I'm very prone to comparison. And I think if I was more active personally on social media, following along with the moms who do it all and have it all and make it look perfect, and their children are constantly clean and in the cutest clothes and, you know, all those things, I think I would have a lot more of those feelings. And I do have to agree, just in other conversations that I've had with other moms that are on social and, you know, scroll through Instagram and TikTok, that there is definitely that feeling of, we have to have our shit together all the time. And if you're not cutting the crust off and cutting your sandwiches into shapes for your children and doing the things for their boxed lunches, then you're failing as a mom. And God, that sucks, because yeah, it is messy and it's chaos, and why can't we just embrace that? And I think that's part of my own journey, thank goodness for therapy, of how can that chaos just be okay, and sitting with it and knowing that it's not, the shit that you see on the internet is not real life. I think it goes back to what we were saying before. Everything that someone shares, there's always the contrast. There's always the other side, and being aware enough to recognize that, not always, because again, I'm human and we all have our things, has been really helpful.
I'm going to introduce you to Laia after this. They started the Bad Moms Club. And I'm like, if I still had little kids, I would so be part of that. Because I think if people had to see how we raised kids way back when, today's moms would be horrified and have a complete shift. Like, there was, yeah, let's not go there. Let's just say my boys had worms. Because you know what? It's life, people. Get over it. Like,
I think
precious about it.
One of the perfect just examples, like there's pacifier wipes. There's wipes that you can buy to wipe the passies, the nooks off, so that the germs don't get into your child's body. And that to me, when I saw them, like, what the hell is this? And no judgment if that is for you, but I'm like, can't we just wipe it on our pants and shove it back in there? Isn't that good enough? So again, yes, please tell me about this group, because I feel like that's my people. I don't need to wipe off the pacifier. I can just
wipe it off. I stuck it in my own mouth and suck it clean.
Yeah.
Put germs in my child's mouth. There you go, honey.
But I think to your point, there's just a very much a different expectation. And yes, I think there can be a lot to be said of as you know better, you do better. And so there's definitely a certain aspect of that. We have more resources now as moms than what I think about, when I was growing up or what the previous generations had. So yes, that needs to be taken into consideration, but also where's that balance of we can embrace the resources, but also still realize that we're real life, and real life has the chaos and the imperfection and a lot of just what the hell are we doing?
And from that perspective, I actually want to start encouraging cross-generational friendships amongst women.
Yes.
I think women of my generation have so much to actually offer the younger generation, so much compassion. I don't think that's encouraged enough. And for my generation, like, we go through our own shit, right? It's not as though we are squeaky clean on the other side. God knows this time is a time of evolution for all of us, and brings up its own growth. But I often think, so my partner is challenging me a lot about, why are you speaking out about these things which are very anti the political correctness of what we are supposed to be saying? And I'm going, because I have a responsibility. I think that if we get to a certain stage in life and we don't take responsibility for sharing wisdom, in
Mhm.
what we are observing in younger people doing, and I have compassion for them, and I understand what they are doing, why they are doing what they're doing. But I also feel like a lot of older people are terrified of going, yeah, we get it. And guys, 30 years down the line, this is what I can share with you, right? They're not doing that because they're scared of being attacked for saying the wrong thing at
Yeah.
the wrong time, and people taking
Mhm.
everything up the wrong way. But I feel like older women right now can really start stepping up for younger mothers and going, honey, we've got you. Like, you're not alone. Like, we need to start bringing women in business together, cross generational again, and going, there are times when you're going to feel like you're losing your shit, and it's okay to come and lose it with us, right? No judgment,
Yeah.
no shaming. Girl, I've got you. Oh man, the stories I could tell you that could make you laugh until you peed your pants and then go, shit, compared to, oh, I'm doing really well. Why not? Like, why are we not doing that
Mhm.
more? And so that's, I want to encourage everybody who's listening to, if you're a young mother, freaking start reaching out to older girls. And if you're an old gal, start reaching out to the younger mothers. Like, we're all in this together, ladies. It's time for us to change the narrative, because it's toxic what's
Yeah.
going on at the moment.
Well, I think too, you bring up a good point that as that next generation, it's also, I think about for me, of being receptive to getting feedback from someone. I think there's a norm in my generation of we have to know it all and be the experts. And approaching a relationship and a conversation with someone who's done it before, I think from you, it also takes that humility and the humbleness, maybe is the better word, of like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm open to receiving what you're saying to me, and having that collaboration and that conversation, because it goes both ways, right? Yes, you can share all of those great stories that will get me to pee my pants, which again, as 7 months pregnant, it's not that hard. But it's also on me then to receive that and not say, well, you don't know because it's totally different now. I mean, that's not fair. And I think that's a natural tendency for people, especially when I'm seeing, just in what I'm hearing in conversations about my generation and even the next ones, is that, well, the automatic assumption is you don't know because it's different. But is it really? I mean, you still raise the kid, you got to keep them alive. That's the premise hasn't changed, the goal hasn't changed. So I think that's also part on us of being receptive, I guess, to those conversations and the feedback and what people have to share.
And there's still the hormones, and there's still days when you just feel like you can't anymore. And there's days that it's just the absolute best.
Yes.
And there's days where if you have to change one more nappy, you're going to just vomit. And then there's other days when they bring you a butterfly and it's like, oh my God, this is why I'm alive today. Like, the important shit doesn't change. Yes, the world environment changes, but the important stuff, who we are as human beings, that doesn't change. Like, we all
No,
still have the
no.
same fears and dreams
Yeah.
and doubts and loneliness at times, and just wanting to be heard, or just wanting to dance with somebody or cry with somebody or laugh with somebody. Like, those things stay forever. That's part of the human experience. And I so want
Right.
to normalize the human experience for women.
And to your point of, once you identify as a mom or as a wife or as a partner or as a friend, that identity doesn't leave the older you get. It's always going to be a part of your identity. It might not feel the same, and you might have a different relationship to that identity, but you still identify as that. And I think we can lose sight of that, because it was a different generation, or it was different experiences when you were experiencing it, but the identity, that core, the groundedness, is still there regardless of when it happened to you. So yeah, I would just agree, and that it's definitely a conversation I think that needs to happen more. And it's been fun to have those conversations, especially with you. And I think about, with my mom and my aunt and in-laws and grandparents. It's just been really fun to open up to those conversations, because yes, I think about my husband's grandmother, yeah, she helped raise him 35, 45 years ago. And it was different, but there's still a lot of the same shit that she had to deal with. I think about with my husband, all the crap that he got into. I'm sure our children are going to get into the same thing. So those, exactly to your point, those principles are not going to change. It's just now they get documented on the internet, versus when we did things, it didn't. And when you did things, it didn't. And you could hide it a little bit better. They have to be more creative now when they're going to get into trouble. So it's just a lot of the same that I think we lose sight of. It's easy to, I should say, lose sight of.
There are many things that I'm so grateful for with regards to technology. And there are many
Same.
things that I'm so grateful for that the technology wasn't there when I was younger.
Same. 100%.
Oh my God. Yes. What do you take an unapologetic stand for?
I am taking an unapologetic stand for owning what you want your version of success to be in this season of life, and knowing that it can change. I think for me, I have a tendency to go all or nothing thinking. And once I decide, I can't change my mind. I have to go all in. And something that I have been working on and continue to work on, and want to, I think, give permission to other people more and be more of an advocate for, is this idea that your version of success can change with your season of life. And that is part of the human experience, in your lovely words.
I know that there are some women who's going to be listening to this and go, oh, damn, yes, I want some of Kelly. Where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yes, I love to hang out on LinkedIn. Kelly Wittman is my, I guess, handle over there. Otherwise, if you are in the business space and you love chatting about branding, we have a weekly newsletter that we send out, and you can sign up for that on my website at wittencompany.com.
I would actually recommend, if people are listening to this, that they do that first, because Kelly is probably having her baby right now. So thinking that she's going to reply on LinkedIn, be not so bad. But if you have a newsletter and you reply to the newsletter and say, hey, Kelly, I was just listening to you on the Unapologetic Women show. You rock, baby. You've got this. I've got your back. When you're free, let's hang for coffee. She will reply to you when she is out of her PJs and there's no baby dribble on her boobs. Yes?
Sounds about right. I mean, I can't make any guarantees, but that would be the goal.
Oh, darling, this was so much fun.
Thank
Much fun.
you.
Thank you
As
for
always.
playing with us. This has gone everywhere. And I know that this is going to serve a lot of women in whatever season of their lives are. So can't tell you how grateful I am that you said yes to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It, as always, has been a joy.
It has. Ladies, thank you for joining us today. Seriously, Kelly is your girl. If you want to have an unapologetic mother who's also a businesswoman and a badass friend, you might want to listen to this again and then reach out to her, because I cannot recommend her enough as a human being, regardless of anything else. So until next week, I hope that you've really enjoyed this episode, and let us know in the comments, like, what is motherhood like for you and in business, and what season are you in? We'd love to hear from you. And we all get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and bloody unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and on LinkedIn at L-Naj. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Woman Friendwork Soiree, book in for our next open meeting at unapologetic-women.as.me/unapologetic. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.